SOC is basically, we can say, a department. Every organization do have departments like sales is there, marketing is there, right? Then we do have departments like productions, manufacturers. So every different department, just like that, we do have one department that is security. And under security, SOC is basically something which is coming. And these days, after this particular pandemic situation, SOC has become basically something that is a centralized place where all of our security teams are working together 24/7. We do have all of our security specialists working together 24/7 in order to basically achieve the overall security of our infrastructure, right? Now, if I do basically take an example, just think in a way that earlier you were having one single place where you would have basically monitored. It can be basically on your firewalls, it can be on your endpoints. But what if I say that there is a domain or there is a unit which will be monitoring overall of your entire infra? You will be having entire of your infrastructure being monitored up over there, right? So that's what SOC basically does. Now, why we are monitoring this particular part? The question is why we are monitoring this. Of course, you all know that these days threats are getting sophisticated. We all do know that there are lots of breaches. If I take you to the websites like security magazines, you might have basically seen that lots of data breaches has happened in past 2 years, especially 2020 and 2021 has put a lot of things on stake for us while in this pandemic situation when everyone has to address security mostly remotely, right? So SOC Analyst and SOC Specialist are basically two of the additions into our training, where we are talking about altogether industry-based learning, and we are basically going throughout all those new things. So let me introduce ourselves, who we are. So InfosecTrain, basically we are into this particular field of information security training, not just only information security. From the panel, we started information security training since 2016, and we are into this particular field of delivery from that particular part. And these are just few of the figures which we do hold up till now and our trusted clients. So why InfoSec train? Of course, you guys all will be getting the answer at the end of this particular session for sure. So let's get started with our agenda. So in this webinar, guys, we are going to talk about major 5 points, which will be my focus of area. And then I have given the last half an hour for complete discussion where I will be picking up the questions from the audiences. And then we will be talking about those particular questions. So the major part which we are going to start with this particular part is our two new launches, that is SOC Analyst and SOC Specialist. So we'll be talking about what's new in both of these particular parts, what is new in SOC Analyst, what is new in SOC Specialist. So after that, I am pretty much very much overwhelmed to basically announce our latest new launch of exam. Yes, you heard it correct. Basically, now we are having exam for InfoSec Train SOC Analyst Certified. So for this particular situation and this particular part, when we have basically an exam for SOC Analyst, this is basically something which is going to be very much exciting, and you will be seeing with me in next couple of slides. And after that, we will be having global need of various different positions throughout the SOCs. The world needs SOCs these days. The world needs SOC analysts these days. So we'll be talking about those particular SOC positions where you can focus onto and you can apply onto. After that, we will be talking about specialized domains in SOC. Specialized domains where we will be talking about various different domains of SOC, where we will be talking about where what are the fields or domains in which you can get expertise into and you can get settled into the SOC operations. So this will be our agenda for this particular part, and in the end, of course, we are going to talk about the questionnaires. All of your questions I will be answering up over here, and we will be discussing throughout the part. So let's get started. What's new in SOC Analyst? So the course basically goes around for 40 hours. InfoSec Train SOC Analyst goes around for 40 hours, in which we will be having four different domains, which I'm going to explain you one by one. So in this 40 hours of training, we are going to basically talk about all these four major key parts or key areas up over here. Since guys, we do have blue teams, red teams, different works inside the organizations, inside cybersecurity department or information security department itself. So the main focus of area of SOC is always in the blue team operations. So in order to understand blue team operations or in order to be the part of blue team operations, we need to be basically understand what is the architecture of blue team operations. That's what our operations architecture we are going to talk about how SOC works, and not just how SOC works, but basically it will be the entire domain which will be taking you from the very start of SOC. What is SOC? In case if you are building up SOC for your organization, because these days SOC is not something which is a very fancy term or it's being related to the only the organizations who are basically MNCs. These days SMEs also are basically having SOC, and we do know that SOC is basically one of the priorities and the major requirements of every mid-sized organizations as well. So we will be talking about how to build up a successful SOC. What are various different functions of SOC? Now, functions of SOC, you might be seeing there are certain different blogs available online, which are basically telling us what are various different functions of SOC. So in this particular functions of SOC, majorly we are talking about how SOC works, what is the actual roles and responsibilities, what are the actual tasks inside Security Operations Center, which we need to do in various different departments, various different industries. Let's say we do talk about manufacturing. So manufacturing is a sector which is always being vulnerable industry, right? Mostly in terms of intellectual properties, in terms of advanced technologies. So how SOC analyst basically can add up to that particular part of manufacturing, how SOC analyst can add up to the part of finance, how SOC analyst can add up to the part of healthcare. So all these different functions based upon different industries are the one which we are going to talk about. Post that we will be guys talking about various different SOC models. SOC models, as we discussed, that SOC is basically the thing which has been going on at a hype at this current time period of our information security. And we do know that there is basically different types of models which are going to be needed to manage this hybrid culture of our jobs right now. You might see some of the organizations are calling their employees to go to office and the work, and then some of the organizations are still following the work from home. So in this hybrid period of our work culture, how we are going to manage those security operations. So we will be talking about various different SOC models and SOC types through which we can basically suffice the need of our organization. Post that we will be also talking about in this blue team operations, we will be talking about SOC teams and roles. That is something which you are going to see with me bit of them today also. But in terms of roles, there are various different positions in SOC, right? So when we do talk about various different positions in SOC, we will be talking about how an analyst is majorly working in SOC, what are different levels, L1, L2, L3, what are different roles like specialist, like consultants, architects, engineer, how to basically achieve those targets, how we can work in order to basically become an engineer, how we can work to basically become an analyst. All these parts we are going to talk about in teams and roles. And not only that will be there in your blue team operations. After SOC, we will be talking about the heart of SOC. Do you guys know what is the heart of SOC? What is the major thing? One major thing which you will see in every SOC,
Same.
SIM. So absolutely yes, SIM is basically something which we do also call as heart of SOC. So SIM is basically something which we are going to talk about. What are various different types of products which are available online, the most used products or the most popular products in SOC. Basically, we are going to talk about as soon as you see the entry of AZ Sentinel, Azure Sentinel, that is also something which is quite challenging to both of its competitors, Splunk and IBM Curador. And one of the open source SIM solution, that is Elastic SIM, that is also something which these days small mid-sized organizations are focusing a lot on, right? So various different SIM solutions are there, and in these SIM solutions, how functions of SOC will be performed, we will be talking about that. How these SIM solutions are capable enough to perform each and every function of your SOC. That's what we are going to talk about in this blue team architecture. Then all those guidelines of your sim solution, your architecture of your sim solutions, how do they collect the data, how do they basically process the data, how do they analyze the data, and how we get the best out of it in forms of alerts. That's what we are going to discuss in your domain 1 blue team operation architecture. Right after that, our domain 2 comes into the picture, that is security operations tool. SOC tools basically we are talking about up over here. So in this particular SOC analyst training, we are talking about majorly one SIM solution, that is one of your popular ones, that is Splunk. We will be talking about Splunk in depth, in detail, and we will be basically having this entire Splunk practicals all associated with it. So how we are going to cover Splunk? So all the industrial requirements of Splunk, we will be talking about how to basically use Splunk from the very basics of Splunk terminologies. Then we will be talking about Splunk's language in which we can communicate to Splunk, that is SPL. Anyone knows what is the full form of SPL? Splunk's uh, proprietary language.
Learn programming
SPL,
language.
it's search processing language. So nice try, but search processing language is basically something which is SPL. So every sim solution these days, you guys know that they are having their own search languages through which we can communicate to these particular tools. Like IBM Curadar is having AQL. Security Onion is guys one of the best tools when we do talk about network security monitoring, and that is again the another tool which we are going to talk about. So it is one of the favorite one for the all the hunters in the team, all of your threat hunters who are basically looking into those particular network layers. It is one of the best tools available up over here, that is Security Onion. So Splunk and Security Onion are these two tools which we are going to talk upon up over here. And in Security Onion, we are going to again talk about that Security Onion architecture. We will be talking about all the tools which Security Onion does have. We will be basically talking about the alerts, triage, and detection, and hunting with Security Onion up over here. Right? So hunt with Security Onion will be the part which we will be talking about as its component. All those who have used security onion, you guys be aware about this hunt based upon elk, purely based upon elk, elasticsearch, logstash, kibana. This particular tool we are going to use, and we are going to take multiple malicious scenarios like a ransomware attack, and then we are going to analyze the same with this with the help of this particular tool. So these are the two major tools which we are going to talk about in our domain 2 security operations tool. Then next guys, 90% of the time you will be finding yourself in SOC doing this incident response. So DFIR basically is something which is one of the major needs of SOC analysts these days to basically create their skills of investigator. So when we do talk about the skills of investigator, we are basically talking about how digital forensics works. What is digital forensics? From that point to the part how we can do digital forensics of multiple different things, be it network, be it email, be it system, be it disk, be it live forensics, how we are going to collect that particular data which will be helping us to find out our evidences. That's what we are going to talk about in domain 3, that is digital forensics. Plus, not just only this part, once you have finded out this particular part, how you do basically answer to that entire incident. That is going to basically be part of IR. So managing up of your entire incidents is basically again something which we are going to talk about up over here. So let's say your SIM solution basically gives you the alert. Brute force attack detected, right? So from that particular alert, once you take up that particular data, how you can investigate it via digital forensics and incident response, and how to basically manage that entire alert of yours or entire incident of yours is basically our primary focus of domain 3, that is DFIR, digital forensics and incident response. So in this particular thing, we are going to talk about things like cyber kill chain. We will be talking about MITRE attack framework up over here. We will be using multiple tools like we do have sys internals, we do have volatility, we do have Wireshark, we do have network miner, FTK imager, autopsy. So lots of tools are basically there which are going to aid our process of forensics, and then incident response basically will be something where we will be talking about what is difference between SIM tool and security onion. Sure. So SIM, as you all know guys, SIM is basically a product which is basically being used to do your log management, compliance management, your user activity monitoring, your evidence and alerts, and triaging, all these particular parts. So if I do especially do talk about network security monitoring tool, that is Security Onion, it is one of your tool which is being used to monitor your network part. So I hope you are aware about NIDAS, NIPS, right? Network based intrusion detection system, network based intrusion prevention system. So NIDAs and NIPS basically watch is all the alerts which are basically going through your network. So security onion is tool which is not basically able to do the all the activities which your SIM solution can do, but is majorly focusing upon the activities which your network needs to be monitored for. So what you can do is you can have a network security monitoring tool like Security Onion, and then you can integrate it with your SIM solution. That means your network part you are covering up over here and you are sending all of your logs to your SIM as well. So that is one way through which you can use it. Mr. Chaitanya, SIM versus Splunk. Splunk is basically one of the I would say products name which is giving SIM solution for services. And SIM is basically one of the concepts. So just like Splunk, we do have IBM QRadar, which is also a SIM solution. We do have Azure Sentinel, we do have HP ArcSight. So lots of SIM solutions are there in the market. Sounds good. Yeah. So Kibana Elasticsearch. So there are these three components: ELK, Elasticsearch, Logstash, Kibana. So these three are basically the things which are open source in the market, and combining all three of them provides you something like SIM solution. You can have your own in-house SIM solution. So all the people who are basically very much interested, you guys can basically set up this ELK components in your computers, and you can push up the logs from your Windows machine and you can investigate it on the same part. Open source components, if combined together as a stack, can do the work of SIM solution. No, Mr. Trilok, it's not, Splunk is not open source. It's basically a commercial tool, but we do have a community edition available for Splunk, which we are going to use in the training. And the next domain, guys, that is our domain for threat intelligence. Now, most of the people basically might not be aware about this particular part, and some of you people might be thinking that it's not that much important for threat intelligence. So all those people who knows or does not know threat intelligence, guys, I do have a question for you. What are your chances for detecting zero-day attacks? Everyone knows zero-day attacks, right? Attacks which are basically there for the very first time, zero-day attacks. What are your chances for detecting those zero-day attacks? I would say those are always fractional, right? Minimals, we can say. We can basically say as per our controls, we do have always very little chances, right? Minimal chances. So if I do basically tell you that whom you have to fight, let's say there are two scenarios. In scenario one, you do not know who is going to attack you. You never know who is going to attack you. In scenario two, what if I tell you that This is the profile of your attacker. Your attacker basically will be attacking you with these type of tools. These are the tactics which your attacker basically uses, and this is the past attack which your attacker has done. So in this way, you can see that how your attacker is going to attack your organization. Now you do have that entire plan with you. You map that plan with your infrastructure design, and you can try to find out the pinpoints that these are the pinpoints where attackers can attack us. All these details basically will be helping you to increase your chances for a zero-day attack, right? So attack surface area, if we want to reduce this, we can basically always rely on this domain, that is threat intelligence. Threat and intelligence. Intelligence, as you all know, it's a military term, right? Where we do collect the precise information about our enemy, and threats are always the enemy of the organization. So when you are collecting the precise information for your enemies, it becomes pretty much easier and pretty much simpler for us to basically detect our threats at earliest and to basically stop them. So why threat intelligence is needed as a proactive approach in SOC is basically what is the focus of this domain. Up over here in domain 4, we are going to talk about various threat actors. We are going to talk about types of threat intelligence. We are going to talk about various different frameworks which are there, like NIST is there, which is talking about threat intelligence analyst. Then we are going to talk about various different models in threat intelligence. We are going to talk about multiple different types of APT groups, their TTPs. We are going to talk about their behaviors. We are going to talk about their malware campaigns. All these particular parts are something which we are going to talk about. Not only this, guys, we are going to talk about multiple tools like using Maltego for threat intelligence, using multiple platforms like Alien Vault OTX and all these particular parts. So this is majorly our focus of our domain 4, how a proactive approach can change the entire SOC scenario. So this was, guys, our first course, that is SOC Analyst. We are going to discuss about the exam of SOC Analyst also, that how once you are done with the training, how this particular exam is going to be. That is something which is pretty much exciting, and I would suggest you guys to be there up till the part comes. So after this, our next latest launch, that is SOC Specialist. What is this new SOC Specialist? First of all, what is this specialist term? You guys basically have seen doctors, right? There are certain different types of doctors. We do have surgeons, we do have physicians, we do have someone who is basically tagged as specialist as well. So what do we call as a specialist? Any idea? I'll take the chat questions in a while. Just be there with me. I'll be taking the chat questions in a while. Specialists are basically something which you can say are your SMEs, subject matter experts. So that's what this particular course has been designed for. So the journey goes in this what in this particular way is, once you are basically given the entrance exam of SOC, you will be eligible for the SOC training. And once you have given the SOC training, you can give SOC Analyst exam and get yourself certified with SOC Analyst, InfosecTrain SOC Analyst certification. And then once you are done with that, you will be eligible for the SOC Specialist training. Of course, this training is also going to be having the exam, but exam is basically something which we are going to launch in our next webinar. So we do have SOC Specialist up over here, which will be again divided into four different domains, which will be totally talking about something to become yourself as a SME, subject matter expert. So SME is the one who will be basically focusing upon a particular subject matter, and he will be basically the expert who will be giving his advice to the security operations team to basically do a particular part. So in this domain we are talking about again lots of things. Our domain 1, SOC operations and architecture. So this is where, since we are the SMEs, so the part where our SOC analyst leaves, we are taking upon the same part. We will be talking about the hierarchies of SOC, how basically different teams are being divided into SOC. We are going to talk about something which we do have maturity model. SOC's maturity model, how we do basically analyze it, what are different compliance needs in SOC, like we do have SOC 2, right? We do have SOC CMM model, that is again one of your maturity model, which we are going to talk about. Apart from it, we are going to talk about various different SOC services, that what type of services you being an analyst or you being a specialist in SOC are being requested to offer upon, and in which particular service you can be the specialist. So be it log management, vulnerability management, incident response, security monitoring, all these things we are going to talk about. Apart from it, guys, we do have various advanced concepts up over here, like we do have XDR, we are going to talk about. We do have something which we do say EDR, which we are going to talk about. We are going to talk about security orchestration automation response, that is SOAR. We are going to talk about MSSPs. All these concepts are basically the part of your domain one. So all these things are basically something which we are going to talk in our domain one, that is security operations and architecture. And not only this part, guys, we are going to basically talk about certain different types of cloud native SIM solutions. So we do know that being Microsoft being one of the vendors into the picture, bringing Easy Sentinel as one of their cloud-based SIM solution, how it has affected the market of SIM solutions like its competitors to be on cloud. Now we do know that we do have IBM QRadar on cloud, we do have Splunk on cloud. So how basically these cloud native SIM solutions are basically different from traditional SIM solutions is something which we are going to talk about. After that, we are going to talk about again the models of these cloud native SIM solution, the types of these cloud SIM solutions, all these things we are going to talk upon up over here in your domain one. Next is domain two, that is very much interesting, I would say, for all those folks who are basically into the field of vulnerability assessment and now are trying to get themselves in SOC. So over here we will be of course talking about the concept of vulnerability assessment, penetration testing, that is VAPT, how to use different types of tools which are vulnerability assessment tools. So over here we are going to talk about tools like NISAS for our vulnerability management. We are going to talk about Nexpose. We are going to talk about web application security tools, like there are Acunetics available. We do have Nikto as a web scanner available. How these web scanning tools basically help us is something which we are going to talk about in vulnerability management. So overall vulnerability management, why it is important and how it is a part of SOC and how it is playing its crucial role to detect something which can be missed, due to which attackers can basically easily attack the organization. And after that, we are going to talk about system hardening up over here, how we can use system hardening as one of our defending things to basically defend against most of our loopholes in our security controls. So system hardening and audits of our endpoints, patch management using various different tools like GFI line guard, and all those things are basically part of our domain 2, which we are going to talk about. And then next, guys, we do have domain 3 as our advanced SIM concepts. So in SOC Specialist with SIM solutions, we are going to talk about. As I mentioned, that this is basically one of your advanced courses, and in this advanced courses, we have kept the best two up over here. So the first SIM solution which we are going to talk about is IBM QRadar up over here, and the another one will be ELK, Elasticsearch Logstash Kibana. So these are the two SIM solutions which we are going to talk about, from the very basic what these are, how to set up them on our systems, how to collect logs via these particular things, and how to use them to basically investigate our network and to monitor our network is the major focus of this domain. So domain 3 will be basically something which will be talking about ELK stack at first, where we will be talking about various different tools of ELK stack, how to collect logs via WinLog beat, file beat, packet beat, all these things. Then we are going to talk about the very vast appliance and very popular one, I would say, in the market, that is IBM QRadar. So in QRadar, we are going to talk about again the component architectures of QRadar, We are going to talk about the UI of Curadar, how Curadar basically is having certain different tools and functional services using which we can monitor the entire organization is something we are going to talk about up over here. So in Curadar again guys, we are going to talk about AQL, that is Aerial Query Language, one of the native communication way of IBM Curadar, and ELK stack is also something which we are going to talk about. EQL, Elastic Query Language. With the information who is going to attack you, we are taking that same profile of who is going to attack us, and we are finding the same inside our organization is the actual motive of threat hunting. So in this threat hunting, we will be learning how we can leverage the MITRE ATT&CK framework again for threat hunting. We are going to talk about how framework, not just MITRE ATT&CK framework, we are going to talk about the pre and the post compromise detections. With MITRE, we are going to talk about MITRE defend, which we are going to talk about, in which we will be talking about how we can pick up a tactic and a tactic technique, how we can create our hunting hypothesis, and how we can use that particular methodology to hunt down our attackers. So this particular threat hunting domain will be including your MITRE ATT&CK threat hunting. Then we will be talking about network-based threat hunting, in which we are going to analyze various different types of traffics. And using those particular traffics, we are going to take certain different industry standard use cases. In those use cases, guys, we are going to talk about, let's say, for example, we will be taking some malware-based use case, right? Log4j. Everyone knows Log4j vulnerability now, right? So we are going to take that log4j vulnerability up till the part and we are going to analyze that particular traffic for us, right? So various different industry standard use cases we are going to take about in network based threat hunting, and then we will be talking about endpoint threat hunting. Of course, these two are the major things when we do talk about threat hunting. These two are the major ways, endpoints and our networks. So in endpoint threat hunting, we are of course going to talk about malware based threat hunting, how we can basically do the hunting of those particular malwares which have already infected the system. And apart from it, we will be talking about threat hunting and in our environment where we do have endpoints and we just are relying upon the system services. So we'll be talking about all those Windows processes which mostly attackers basically target upon. Let's say we do have lss.exe as a malicious process. How we are going to hunt down the threat up over there is our major focus for this particular endpoint threat hunting. And next, as I already mentioned, malware-based threat hunting will be including the part where we are going to take a particular system which is being infected, let's say by ransomware, and we are going to analyze that particular system via doing the hunting of that system. And how forensics plays a crucial role, especially when we do talk about malware-based threat hunting, how forensic plays a crucial role where we can collect the image of our system and we can analyze the same image for our purpose is our major area of focus. And right after this threat hunting, how attackers use the techniques of, I would say, anti-forensics or anti-hunting, where they are using steganography, ADS, overwriting certain things. So all these anti-forensic techniques which are there, how to defeat those in order to basically create our own threat hunting. So that will be the focus of our domain one. So these are guys two latest launches into SOC field which InfosecTrain has introduced. The one is SOC Analyst, the another one is SOC Specialist. So before moving further, I'll just take up the questions from chat. So let me just basically go through them one by one. What is the basic certification required to enter SOC 1, SOC L1 role? So Mr. Krishna, I would say certification is not the thing which SOC is basically requiring, but skills are something which you should be having. So you can just go through our SOC Analyst course content, which is available on InfoSec Train's website, and you can have a look and you can compare it with the things and the skills which are being required in your job portfolio these days, right? So I would suggest you to go for SOC Analyst first to basically become an L1. Absolutely, Mr. Prasad. We can switch from system admin to SOC analyst. So, analyst is basically someone who is an investigator, the one who finds the root cause analysis. And since you are the admins, I do consider them as monitors, right? The monitor of the class who will be looking on the entire part. So you do have a good part where you can basically become a SIM solution admin, or you can even try for SOC admin where you need to monitor each and every control of your SOC. So yes, you do have certain chances to enter in SOC, especially into SOC analyst. Yes, you have to basically go through the entire investigation part. And if you are looking around the same admin roles, absolutely, you will be able to find some of them in your SOC as well. In order to do SOC specialist, we need to complete SOC analyst. Yes, SOC Analyst is a prerequisite for our SOC Specialist course. In case if you are interested to directly give the exam, that is also something which we are launching. So for first 1,000 students, we have launched the exam where you will be basically have to give your exam directly to enter into SOC Specialist. How SOAR is different from SIM? So, Mr. Chaitanya, SIM is basically something where we do the most of the work, and SOAR is basically something which will be automating your stuff. You do know that AI is basically something which is taken up over. So, not just AI, I'll talk about. So, security automation operations, automation is basically something which is the entire role of your L1. If I do talk about or entire role of your a particular task, let's say every day you need to basically collect the mails from your mailbox outside your house, right? Next day you basically saw a ad on internet where you can purchase a robot to do a particular task. So what you basically define that particular robot is, once you purchase it, that you need to basically go outside every day at this particular time, and you need to basically collect upon all these particular mails which are there inside that mailbox and bring that those mails to me, right? So what you have done is the same steps which you are doing, you are basically now a machine with you who is doing that particular stuff for you. So that is how you can basically differentiate SOAR and SIM at an initial level. Over there in SOAR, we do have certain things which we do call as playbooks. If this happens, what to do? If this happens, what to do? Right? Just like an ATM machine, you go through ATM machine, there are certain different ways for which you can create a overflow chart, right? That insert the card, enter the PIN number. What you need to do? Cash withdrawal, you can ask how much. If once it gives how much, let's say 5,000. If 5,000 is present in account, then proceed with transaction. Else, do what? Say low account balance and exit the process. So same way of playbook you are going to create with all of your threat scenarios, and you are going to feed it to your machine up over there, which will be doing the automation stuff for us, from detecting the alert to responding to that particular alert. All that part will be of your SOAR. So who will be the certification body for this SOC exam? InfosecTrain. We at InfosecTrain have launched this in-house course, and we will be having our InfosecTrain SOC Analyst exam up over here. Let me take the questions which are coming right now. What are the new challenges for SIS and network admin when while they enter to the SOC platform? So you can enter to the SOC, I would say, at a role of SOC engineers and SOC architects, which will be basically something helpful to you. And in case if you are looking to become SOC analyst, that means you need to leave your entire work behind of that part, and you need to start focusing upon how to use tools to investigate the stuff or the alerts or the incidents for the organization. I'm a DevOps engineer. Is it better option than DevOps? I would say it depends on your basically interest. In case if you are interested into defense or defending the organization, yes, this is a field for you. And if you are someone who basically is looking into the development, absolutely you are in the correct field right now. In threat hunting, you said that we can do endpoint hunting, we can do malware hunting. Here, how can we know this particular endpoint is infected? So that's what you are going to learn with me in the class, right? Finding the abnormal activity. That is your major part or major focus of threat hunting, right? How you will be finding the abnormal activity. We can do it in multiple ways. I'll just try to cover one or two ones out of it. Like signature based, you do find the signatures of malicious behaviors. At that time, you can basically start threat hunting. You do find the behavior of your malicious actors, right? Let's say, for example, ransomware. Ransomware is having one behavior that one of ransomware files will try to open all the files in your system and will replace the contents of that particular file with encrypted formats, right? It will be replacing it with encryption formats. So as soon as you see a particular file which is opening lots of file inside your system and replacing its content with the encrypted version, that means you can detect that it's a ransomware, and at that time you can basically start doing the hunting. Of course, before hunting, there will be containment, but that is how you basically are going to find out how the system is infected. Finding the abnormal behavior or something which is wrong, you can do threat hunting. And before that, threat hunting or finding the system, see, threat hunters do the hunting in two ways. One, when they are given the data of threat intelligence. Threat intelligence will be giving you certain signatures that this is the file hash which you need to find inside the system. You take upon the hash and you investigate the entire system for that file hash. Or when you do not have threat intel, you can basically again start hunting upon the abnormal behavior of the system. Mr. Arjun, what is difference between your old SOC course and this SOC course? So I would say that the older SOC course which we were having for 80 hours was something which was majorly focusing upon the analyst role, plus the major role was upon the forensics. So we were focusing on forensics and then we were focusing upon SOC Analyst, where we were having multiple tools. And as per the batches which we have seen, as per the audiences we have seen, now, we do know that SOC is not just limited up to the forensics, and there are certain particular fields which needs to be addressed into day-to-day task for a specialist or an analyst. So that's why we have bifurcated this particular course into two different parts, where the analyst will be now only focusing upon the analyst role, where they do have their day-to-day task to be done, and then we do have someone who can become the specialist in SOC and can do the part where analyst basically leaves off, right? So you can follow this particular sequence. So what you have to do as an analyst, SOC analyst is going to teach you. Once you are done with that analyst part, how specialist will be coming into the picture and will be completing that entire story is the next part up over here. Mr. Riaz, the certification body for this SOC exam is InfosecTrain. New exam launch, that is InfosecTrain SOC Analyst. So the exam is going to be, guys, 24 hours long. So it's not necessary that you need to basically sit for 24 hours in one straight and then you need to complete the exam. So the exam will be in such a way that you will be given certain different challenges, which I'm going to explain it up over here. And you need to basically submit all of those particular challenges with their answers and reports into 24 hours by the time you will be starting your exam. So will the exam will be proctored? No. So the part where we are giving the training, we are also giving the labs. So exam will be hosted in the same labs where you will be doing your entire training. And once you are done with your training, the very next week, your exam will start and it will be having all the practicals which will be proving the analyst in you. So how we are going to take the exam is basically something which we are going to cover in SOC analyst training. So for all those who just wanted to know what this exam is, the exam will be basically of 24 hours where you will be given five different scenarios in which you need to basically prove yourselves by giving up the answers for every different scenarios and need to submit the report in the end for all these five scenarios with the minimum things which will be explained inside the class. So what we are going to have an exam, what type of challenges and scenarios? We are going to have something which is I can see that in connection. That is something which will be proving your network. Then of course, by the name you guys can find, did I got fished? So this is something which is basically you are going to find your expertise in emails. And of course, collect before it's gone, where you will be going into the volatile part of your system. Now, collect before it's gone is basically something, guys, where you are going to prove yourself in forensics. And that is something which is very much helpful when you are basically working in SOC. And while working in SOC, you are having lots of things up over there which are having a time window. You all guys know about SLA, right? Service level agreements. And those who are working in SOC, you might be basically aware about service level agreements for different types of tickets, like P1 tickets, P2 tickets, P3 tickets. All of these tickets does have different SLAs, right? So you need to basically investigate it before it's gone. So this will be the part which will be very much interesting, I would say. And then you do have basically a scenario where you need to take upon a system which has been infected by the attackers, and then you need to basically search, analyze, and then repeat. So these are basically the four things which will be proving your skills into different parts of your system and your forensics. And the next one will be the behavior is the key. As I mentioned, in SOC analyst training, we do have something which is threat intelligence, and finding the behavior of your threats is the key to answer this particular part. So we are going to have these five different domains up over here in which we are going to basically take the exam, which will be of 24 hours long. You will be giving certain different questions in every different domain, which you need to basically answer them and report back by the time you start your exam in 24 hours. Exam will be definitely on your self pace. Let's say if you can do the job in 2 hours, you are good to go. If you want to do 2 hours, then have a break, then 2 hours. So the labs will be available to you, and you need to complete the exam at disposal within 24 hours. Monitoring the IDS and IPS is responsibility for L1 analyst. Mr. Modi, basically, IDS and IPS is something which will be one part, monitoring your entire infrastructure, and that is via the centralized solution, that is SIM, is basically responsibility for an L1 analyst. So the training period, Mr. Anurag, will be most probably in weekends. I'm having my first batch on 5th of March 2022, and which is starting on Saturday 5th of March, and it will be there for next 5 weekends. Mr. Sunil Kumar, it's online, so you can basically join it in the same way like you're having the meeting. So for that, you just need to basically register with us first. And Mr. Adesh, basically this particular thing you can just query upon our website, and I believe there are representatives who will be taking up your query up over there. Mr. Arifin, basically you can also get on the website and get the particular fees of this particular part. Yes, Mr. Anurag, 5 weekends we need to basically give, and there will be another weekend which will be for the exam. So 5 plus 1 is how we are planning for SOC Analyst. Mr. Prashnath, basically opportunities for placement. Yes, that is always something which I do get these days a lot. And trust me, once you are basically joined with the training, you will be able to find yourself at least with that much confidence where you can basically go for the interviews and you can schedule the interviews. And yes, since we do have a lot of basically base upon now in SOC, and we do have different vendors with us, so definitely we do keep sharing all the openings and the positions where all of our basically infosec train learners basically can apply and learn. Mr. Arjun, you can say it in a sense. So for a particular challenge, we will be having something which will be similar to that, but in a different way. And you are going to basically sometimes write up, do the write up reports for the answer, and then sometimes you need to submit the answers. Exam will be, Mr. Harrison, will be launched on our website, and you will be basically having that particular exam from there only. We do have our online labs on which where you will be taking the training, and then you will be giving the exam. Absolutely, yes, Mr. Anurag. That's what our focus about is in those 40 hours. So we will be practicing a lot in those 40 hours. So the training ratio, if I do talk about, it's basically 30% of your theory and 70% practical. 70% you will be finding yourself up over there with all those exercises, and where you will be basically learning a lot of things up over there.
I just wanted to check up, do we have some systems requirement and something which is supposed to be done during the training time, and we will be online with you while practicing on some kind of the tools and working it out and exploring and exploiting it?
Yes, absolutely. So there are no system requirements. All you do need a browser and a good stable internet connection. So entire course is being hosted upon our online labs. So you will be provided with the system and all the tools which you are being required. Additionally, in case if you want to have lab at your disposal at your end on your system, so the references will be provided you for the same to create your own lab on your own system. Mr. Ahmed, I guess I did answer your question as well. So online cloud-based labs are there in which you are going to take the entire training and exam. And if you want to basically get your basically lab all also by the time you are learning for future practicing, you will be given the references for the same. Yes, Mr. Hassan, we will be using Splunk for various different parts in SOC Analyst. We are going to basically use it as a SIM solution and learn SPL up over there. Mr. Mahesh, SPL, AQL, and KQL is like SQL query for search, right? So you can say AQL is definitely something which is similar to SQL, but KQL is different and SPL is also different again. No, Mr. Arifin, exam will not be multiple choice. It will be practical hands-on labs. Mr. Mohammed, it will be 4 hours every weekend, like 4 hours Saturday, 4 hours Sunday. So for every weekend, you will be giving 8 hours. Yes, absolutely, Mr. Anurag. Will be sharing you shortly. So before we guys proceed with that particular part, let's basically talk about our next topic. So the global need of SOC positions. As I mentioned in the very starting, the world needs SOC, right? So since all do know the world needs SOC, you guys can see the number for jobs related to the SOC analyst up over there. If you just search on Google SOC analyst job, you will be finding that we do have Naukri, we do have various different websites which are basically there, which are already having the SOC requirements with them as of now, and all these particular SOC requirement will be thousands in numbers. As I mentioned, SOC is not basically a position, or SOC is not basically something which is not only related to big organizations. It has become the need for everyone these days. Everyone, as I mentioned, it will be basically the need for all those people who are even in mid-size organization. Mid-size organizations are also requiring the basic SOC these days. Hospitals, you do talk about manufacturing industries, finance industries, everyone do require SOC these days. So absolutely, there are certain different positions which you can try upon. SOC Enlist and SOC Specialist is something which we do have curated course upon, and then you do have things like SOC Engineers. Anyone does know what are SOC Engineers? So I was seeing the questions of network engineers and system admins up over there. So would you guys would like to try what can be something as an engineer? So engineers, as you know, a normal definition of an engineer is that they do basically create things, right? So SOC engineers will be the one who will be creating the entire infrastructure for every SOC person to work upon, right? To work upon, to communicate, to make sure that system is basically up and sending logs. The all the hardware and the software specialist will be someone who will be as a role of SOC engineers, right? So configure the SOC tools, configure the tools for the team, configuring the connectivity between the different tools. All these will be the part of SOC engineers, right? Then guys, we do have basically something as SOC admins. So all the system admins, security admins, network admins, basically this is something for all of you people. So you are basically there to configure the tools, right? Engineer has basically make sure the tools are up and ready to use. The configuration, the controls, all these things are something which you are going to set up, right? Who will be having access to what, how much access will be provided to whom, what type of roles will be having what type of accesses. All these things will be basically something which will be decided by SOC admins, right? So these are basically also the people who can basically work upon SOC. Then of course we do have people who are basically industry experience, I would say with 10 plus years or 15 plus years, who wants to basically work in SOC but as a manager. SOC manager post is basically something for all of you people. So as a manager, you will be the link between your management and your SOC team, and you need to manage all of your different shift leads. You need to manage all of your team leads, and you need to manage entire of your SOC, right? Then SOC architects. Can anyone try for SOC architects what it can be? SOC architects, guys. So I'll just tell you guys, SOC architects. As you know, in normal times, architects are someone who basically designs the things and builds up the things, right? Same way, SOC architects will be someone who will be designing and building your entire SOC infrastructure. From bringing it to the NOC, network operation centers, how your network connectivity is going to happen, how basically every device is built upon, how we are sharing the data, entire design of your SOC, how data is flowing in and out of your SOC will be something which will be designed by your architects, right? So SOC architects is also one of the very good opportunities these days, and one of the highly paid opportunities in case if you do have experience with SOC engineers and SOC architects both, right? You can see this number for engineers, it is something which is at top, because this is something where you need to bring, just think in a situation guys, your organization was working normal with different departments. Now what you're doing is you need to bring all of your departments data into one centralized location, and then you need to maintain that big data. Chunks of data will be there, right? You need to manage that big data up over there. So for that particular part you do of course will be highly paid out of SOC. And then next we do have consultants, SOC consultants, the ones who will be again the subject matter experts who will be helping the SOC analyst to basically do their day-to-day work, their day-to-day task with their specialized knowledge into a particular specific domain. So the SOC consultant will be the overall one person who will be expert in problem solving. Always the analyst will be presenting the problem in front of SOC analyst, and SOC analyst will be the one who will be doing the problem solving for the organization, right? So that is basically something like these are guys just few of the profiles which I have mentioned up over here. There are lots of profiles which are available online. You guys can give it a try, but these are the majorly handpicked profiles which you can find it up over here. Any questions in this positions? Yes, Mr. Mahesh, engineers can do also same. Security analyst, I would say some companies do refer them security analyst, but SOC analyst will be someone who will be a bit different from security analyst. Security analyst has to basically maintain the security controls of your organization. The one who is working on a IDS also is a security analyst. And the one who is working for VAPT also is a security analyst. But when we do talk about SOC analyst, these are the people who will be basically investigating your entire and monitoring your entire organization with the help of various different SIM solution. Associate information security analyst roles comes under which tier? So associate information security role, analyst role. So if you're talking about information security analyst and that too as an associate role, that means you are basically aiding the entire SOC operations with your different skill set, right? Let's say you are the one who is expertise in, be it different types of tools, in different types of endpoints. You are being given a particular system or a particular server to basically maintain the security about the system security controls, the system's data, all these things if you are monitoring. So that will be something which is your associate information security analyst role. Difference between SOC and pen testing. So pen testing is basically something where you are trying to find out the loopholes of your own system by attacking your own system. So that's what we do call as pen testing. And then when we do talk about SOC, it's your organization's department where you will be sitting and continuously monitoring entire of your organization to find out suspicious activities in your organization. Let's say your organization does not allows analysts to connect to the torrent websites, right? And someone did it. So pen testing won't be able to help you find out that, but in SOC you will definitely get the alert for that particular part. Then the next slide, guys, is basically our topic wise, the last slide, but is something which is very important to discuss about. So, specialized domains in SOC. Specialized domains in SOC is basically something that how and different fields are there where you can apply in SOC. Let's say you do have knowledge about Splunk, you do have knowledge about QRadar, you do have knowledge about XYZ, any SIM solution, Secure Onyx, Azure Sentinel, you do have HP ArcSight, you do have RSA. So multiple different types of SIM solutions are there, right? So the one of the major domains which are required in SOC is on the top, that is SIM solution. So no matter what kind of skills you do have, what type of experience you do have, if you do have the proven experience onto your basically SIM solution, that is one of the specialized domain in which you can enter inside SOC, right? Next is incident response. It is again right after SOC the major one because 90% of the time while working in SOC you will be always finding yourself doing this particular part. Not really. I'll just basically try to explain you back again to avoid that confusion. I'll just help you up over there. So event. To understand incidents, the one should be understanding events, right? Since that is your 90% of task, so that's why I'm taking a bit upon this particular point. So incidents basically are something which will be there if an event has abrupted your system services badly. So now, what is event? You will be thinking that, Bharat, what is event? So event is, guys, basically something which is a normal occurrence in your system. You turn on your system, you log in into your system, that's an event. You open a file, that is again an event. You close your system, you turn off your system, that's an event. But what if someone else turned on your system and log in into your system with a different location? That is something which is affecting the security of your system and account. That's what we will call the incident. So incident will be always the adverse activity which has happened due to which you have basically gone under security compromise is basically known as incident. Let's say a brute force attack, that's an incident. A malware outbreak, that's an incident, right? So incident is something which is affecting the security of your organization. That's what we do call as incident. Clear, team? So incident response, as I mentioned, it is one of the major domains while working in SOC. Incident response is something where you are starting from the very first part, preparing yourself for the incident, identifying incident, controlling that incident, removing that incident factor, and bringing back your business to the normal state. That will be your response to every incident. Entire incident management is basically based upon this incident response. So one of the specialized domains in SOC incident response where you will be having incident response plans, policies for every different types of incidents, and you will be making sure that you are bringing back your system to the normal state with a minimal impact and minimal cost. and at earliest is basically something which you will be learning in incident response. So that is again one of these domains which in which you can do this specialization, and it is very much required in your SOC. 100% SIM and incident response are two things which will never end in SOC. So these are two things which you can always focus upon to get yourself specialized in. Then is digital forensics. Incident response is always incomplete without digital forensics. You guys might know that there are multiple different detective shows which are going on where you might have seen these forensics being going on. So how that forensics is different from digital forensics, I'll just try to explain you in one line. Over here we are not basically examining the dead bodies, we are examining the systems which are part of compromise, right? So examining that entire system which were part of compromise to that part where we are doing the root cause analysis, that how this breach has happened, to find out what were the factors compromise the system. That's what digital forensics basically helps in, and it is a part of your incident response. So the one who is having incident response as a specialized part, digital forensics should be the one you should be mastering upon, right? The next is threat intelligence. Of course, if you can bring up your enemy's data and you can feed it to your system, let's say your enemy is having an address abc.com. What if you feed this particular data to your system that monitor for abc.com, if any connection request comes or goes to abc.com, give me the alert. That's how threat intelligence works, guys. It is basically something in which we are basically monitoring upon our adversaries at maximum by collecting their data. Like it is finding or attacking the attackers and collecting the information about them so that we can monitor upon them in case if they try to communicate to our system. That's what threat intelligence is. And if they have communicated to our system, this is where hunting will come into the picture. We are going to find those preparators data inside our system, and we are going to find the pinpoints of those particular things into our system so that we can find out what exactly has happened in our system, and we can basically remove that particular point from our system. So hunting starts from the point intelligence completes. So the point intelligence completes, hunting starts from that point. So that's what we do have threat intel and threat hunting for. Next is compliance auditing. Compliance auditings, guys, if we do talk about, you all might know there are different sort of compliances out there in the market, isn't it? We do have multiple different types of compliances. So compliance auditing plays a key role in our organizations because it helps us in standardizations of our processes. Compliance basically ensures the security controls and the protocols and make sure that these things are basically in place, right? So compliance auditing, you can basically learn. SOC basically helps us in maintaining various different regulatory compliances though. If you do talk about HIPAA, PCI DSS, you do talk about GDPR, SOX, GLBA, multiple different compliances are there. So SOC is already helping to maintain these compliances and to maintain SOC, to make sure that SOC is basically compliant enough and all the security controls and all the processes and the protocols are being followed in SOC. We do have compliance auditing as one of the part where you can learn multiple different types of auditings for your SOC itself, right? So that is again one of the specialized domain in which you can work into. And risk management, since you are collecting all of your data at one place, it's a best view of your entire organization's risk. You can overview all the risk associated with every different type of controls, devices, people, process, technology. You can try to find out what it is and you can try to overall manage the risk of your organization from a centralized part. The next, guys, is threat management. Of course, finding out the threats, having the controls fine tuned to find out the threats. Once finded out the threats, to remove them, entire part threat management. That is also something in which you can get specialized into. So vulnerability guys, if we do talk about vulnerabilities, those are the weakness, flaws inside our system or the loopholes which attackers do take the advantage of and get inside our system. So that's what we do call as vulnerabilities. Lots of people I have heard about, they say that threats and vulnerabilities are synonyms, but actually they are not. Threat can be anything which does have the capability to damage our organization. It can be an attacker group, let's say APT29. It can be a normal script kiddie who has downloaded an exploit from internet and is attacking against our organization. It can be our business competitors who might hire the hackers to basically attack our organization and to steal our documents. So anything which does have the capability to damage our organization, to change the value of our assets of our organization is basically something which we do call as threats. Clear? So that's what guys we do call as threats. So threat management to find out threats, preparators, and to manage those particular threats, preparators who can affect the security of our organization is basically something part of threat management, and this is something in which again we can do the specialization into. And the next one is again one of the SME topic, that is malware analysis and reverse engineering. Sometimes guys, while we are doing forensics, it's not basically good enough for our organization to basically find out the root cause of analysis, because attackers are using these days custom exploits, custom softwares, and attacks are getting pretty much sophisticated, right? And these days I believe now there is not even a day where which goes without a cybersecurity news that this hack happened or this hack happened, isn't it? So to go in depth in detail to find out how attacker has created this particular software, to find out how this software is working, to find out the things, how what its software is communicating to find out the components, what software is installing into our system, files which is editing, malware analysis is basically pretty much important. Reverse engineering is a process which aids us in doing the malware analysis. So doing the malware analysis, if you are basically someone who is having a good hands-on knowledge into static and dynamic type of malware analysis, this is again one of the subject matter expert domain in which you can get specialization into SOC. So all these are basically different types of specialization domains in which you can enter into. For this slide, in case if you do have any questions, you can put it in chat. I will be now taking the questions from chat. CSOC, GSOC, and SOC. CSOC, Central SOC, GSOC, Global SOC, and SOC is normally your SOC. So CSOC and SOC is basically something which are similar. You can say one of the similar terminologies. When we do talk about GSOC, guys, now let's say you are a big organization, right? Big organization basically is something who is having multiple corporate offices at different ends, right? You do have your headquarters hosted in Dubai and you are basically working in different parts where you do have multiple different SOCs, right? Like you have one team in India, for there you do have SOC, you do have one team in UK, you do have their SOC. Combining all those particular SOCs together and maintaining all those smaller SOCs at from one end, we do have basically something which we do call as GSOC, right? There are multiple different types of SOC. So GSOC is basically something which we do call as the SOC which take cares of all the another SOCs upon from one location. That is what we do call as global SOC. CSOC, the part I believe you are talking about corporate SOC. So corporate security operations center is basically something to monitor the entire organization's security. Internal SOC, you can say it can be a corporate SOC. So CSOC and SOC will be something as a part of your same thing. You are having it for your in-house and something which you are providing as a service. please shed some light on OTICS? OTICS, you can say that OTICS will be the SOC which will be specially focusing upon the industries based upon your SCADA controllers, industries where you do have ICS. So all of your IoT, not just IoT, but operational technologies. So organizations which are basically having operational technologies, at that part you can have this particular SOC being developed and used is something we do call as IT, IoT, OT, ISC, or ICS SOC, specially controllized for SCADA systems. Yes, sure, Mr. Vignesh, I would love to do so. So, one more time about threat intelligence, threat hunting management. So, threat intel is basically where you are collecting. Let's say if I am your attacker, the part where you are collecting the information about me, precise information about me, that how do I attack, what tools I do use for attack, that is something the part of threat intel. Taking apart that information, you are matching your systems and finding out my traces out of your system is basically something that is you'd call as threat hunting. And threat management is the part where you do have the entire profile, you do have the risk factor associated with me or for your organization, you do have what things I can use for your organization, and what controls you can have to mitigate me as a threat from your organization will be part of threat management. Mr. Mahesh, CISM is basically something a different cert which just talks about management, right? And if we do talk about SOC is something which will be different. Of course, if you are in SOC and you do have CISM, you are eligible for post like SOC managers or something like that. But basically, you will be, of course, having a senior position up over there. But basically, for that, you need to have proven experience in terms of technology also. So SOC will be helping you to get expertise in technology, and CISM will be something which will be helping you to get expertise in management. And once you have both, of course, you do have a bright career in terms of SOC manager, getting yourself settled as SOC manager. So in compliance auditing, there are standards like SOC 2 is basically the one which is pretty much famous these days. SOC 2 audit compliance, we do talk about it, which basically takes upon the security controls for SOC 2, for Security Operations Center.